Fujimoto might have just confirmed one of the oldest and most popular fan theories in Chainsaw Man. A pretty crazy theory actually that revolves around the newly introduced Violence Fiend. The Violence Fiend has always been one of my favorite characters in the entire story, which is why today we'll be talking about this theory along with explaining things like what abilities the Violence Fiend has or what's up with the mask that he's wearing, because there is a specific function that it has. There will be a few manga spoilers that I will be talking about throughout this video, but I won't be giving any context, so it's not too spoilery. But if you 100% do not want to get spoiled at all, then make sure to subscribe and have notifications on so you can check out my other spoiler-free Chainsaw Man content on this channel. But with that being said, let's get into it. For those of you that are anime-only watchers, the opener and various endings of each episode might have seemed insignificant for the most part, just a clear sign that MAPPA is having fun with the project and are throwing in a diverse grouping of art and music for our viewing pleasure. Well, for those of you that have been deep in the Chainsaw Man Reddit space for some time now and are just a hardcore fan in general, you might have realized something very low-key but very important in the ending sequence of episode 11. Because for one, that ending was completely fire, but other than that, towards the end of it, we see various characters be introduced, specifically those that were involved in the Eternity Devil arc, because we see Aki, we see Power, we see Denji of course, we also see Kobeni, we even see Himeno. But one character that is missing and that is replaced with another character is Arai, because we gotta remember he was also involved in the Eternity Devil arc, but instead of having him here in this ending sequence, we actually have the Violence Fiend. And yeah, it might make some sense that the Violence Fiend is being introduced here because he was just introduced in that episode, but it is kind of weird that all of the Eternity Devil characters have been highlighted in this ending and Arai is specifically omitted and replaced with the Violence Fiend. Well, this sent the Chainsaw Man community ablaze because there has been a long-running theory for some time now that the Violence Fiend was actually formerly Arai and that the Violence Devil had taken Arai's body after he had been killed, as we saw in episode 9 of the anime. Now, to give you guys a quick refresher on how fiends work, which will kind of make this make a lot more sense to you, a fiend is the result of a devil who is near death that has taken over a human corpse, meaning of course that human was dead and kind of had just a body vacant for that devil to go into and possess. That newly developed fiend usually loses all memories it had of being human and fully takes on the personality of the devil that possesses it. Well, the Violence Fiend is actually a pretty special case because, as we saw in episode 11 of the anime, he seems like a pretty tame character, a pretty friendly and non-aggressive character out of the bunch. And Aki specifically also states that he is one of the more powerful fiends that they have in Special Division 4, and he has power even comparable to a devil, which is pretty incredible seeing as how fiends also have their abilities nerfed when compared to their devil form counterparts. So you can only imagine what the Violence Devil is truly capable of, because right now with the Violence Fiend, we saw that he has super strength and agility, which makes a whole lot of sense because to be the Violence Fiend or the Violence Devil, you have to be pretty powerful, pretty violent of course, and be able to straight wreck stuff up when you have to. The Violence Fiend is so strong in fact that he has to wear a mask to pretty much nerf himself as he's going about his day, because if he wasn't wearing it, he more than likely would go on a rampage and be uncontrollable. And it's pretty interesting that this mask specifically isn't just something that's covering his face and, you know, the reveal of his face is what makes him go crazy. It's actually the fact that this mask contains poison that is continuously poisoning the Violence Fiend to keep him sedated pretty much. And I think it's kind of funny that they use this mask, which I'm sure many of you have already noticed that it's the classic plague doctor mask that we see in various forms of media. And what's kind of ironic about this whole idea is that while the mask that the Violence Fiend is wearing is filled with poison that is sedating him, the plague masks that were worn way back in the day by plague doctors actually had their beaks filled with theriac, I think that's how you pronounce it, which is an ointment or other medical compound used as an antidote to snake venom or other poisons. So I thought this was a nice little touch by Fujimoto to throw in there. One other very important detail about the Violence Fiend, which is a spoiler for the manga, is that he himself states that he has much of his human brain still intact and actually has some of his own human memories from before he became a fiend, which is very, very rare, as we see that the majority of fiends get completely possessed by the devil that goes into them and they take over their brain and all of their memories get completely wiped out. So this is something that also makes the Violence Fiend a very special case and a very interesting character in my opinion. But getting back to the theory, what also adds some credence to all of this is in the opener of the anime, where when we see all the main cast watching a movie where we also see the new devils and fiends that were introduced in episode 11, like the Spider Devil and Beam the Shark Fiend, one character that is specifically omitted is the Violence Fiend. And if you guys notice, we see Arai in this opening sequence, meaning that there is no sequence where we see both Violence Fiend and Arai in the same shot, which of course is why the vast majority of the community was all up in arms about this small little detail. And it might just seem like a coincidence, and you might also be thinking like, why would this be a theory that's confirmed in an opener and an ending of an anime? That's kind of stupid, right? Well, for those of you that follow Fujimoto, you know that he is not opposed to omitting certain details or revealing certain details about the manga after the fact that weren't initially put into the story itself. Because if you remember back to the episode at the beginning of the Eternity Devil arc, when they're all outside of the hotel room and Denji is muttering over to Power that the prank they pulled on Aki earlier might have gone too far, and we see Aki get totally pissed off and exclaim that wasn't even a prank and he should kill them. Well, when you find out what the prank was, you'll definitely be on Aki's side here, because Fujimoto himself actually mentioned what the prank was. Because of course, if you've seen the anime, it's never mentioned, and it's also never mentioned in the manga. But Fujimoto himself actually tweeted out that the prank that they did on Aki was to put a piece of poop on his nose while he was sleeping, but he just didn't write it in. Now, whether it's something that was pushed on by his editor to kind of omit from the story or something he just decided himself to omit, the fact of the matter is that there are details in the story that Fujimoto changed or omitted and just never touched again. And what makes me think that Fujimoto might have played a hand in delivering this little nugget of information to the fan base is the fact that before the anime came out, when we were just getting small details about the story itself, months prior to it coming out, we were notified that Fujimoto himself was actually working pretty close with Studio MAPPA in various details of the anime itself, like picking out the voice characters, picking out the music. As we all see in the opener, it's filled with Western movie references, which is kind of a testament to Fujimoto being a huge movie buff. So there's many clear signs of Fujimoto having his hands in this project, so I don't think it would be a stretch to say that he wanted to confirm this popular theory among the fan base in a very sly and underhanded way, because the alternative would be just to kind of retcon the story or add in this little bit of information, and I think it would have taken away from the overall story itself, seeing how fast paced it is. And I think what puts the nail in the coffin to all this is something that is not new at all. It's actually something that's been in the manga this whole entire time. And this is where we get into a little bit of spoilers, because in the chapter where we finally see the Violence Fiend reveal his face, barring the, obvious changes to the eyes, the inhuman looking eyes, we see that he has a head and hairstyle very similar to Arai himself. And seeing as how he's someone that's of similar height and also someone that seems to specifically care about Kobeni a lot, much like Arai did, and coupling with the fact that he is a special case where he still has most of his human brain intact and he does have memories of his former human life. I mean, come on guys, I think it seems pretty obvious at this point. I don't know if this is just headcanon here that I'm building up. I am very convinced that the Violence Fiend is in fact Arai's corpse, and it's pretty sad when you think about it, but it's a pretty incredible theory to have confirmed, seeing as how it's something that the fan base has been rattling on about for years now. But what do you guys think about this theory? Do you think it has any legs to it? Do you think it's totally insane? Either opinion is valid, and I want to hear about it in the comment section below. So go crazy in the comments, guys, and that does it for today's video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe and turn your notifications on for each and every Chainsaw Man video I drop every single week. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.